Coach, I looked at your page, and I love the page that you got. I looked at the website. I like the word empowerment. I love that. That resonates with me. I don't know why, but it
Yeah.
resonates with me. So go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody, and we definitely want to get your feedback on this.
Great. It's interesting that you should talk to me about Napoleon Hill because I've been a coach for a long time and I've developed some programs. I'm about to put out a new online program called Overcoming Everything, a self-guide to empowerment. And Napoleon Hill has helped me so much with that for not the reasons that most people think. Now, I started reading Think and Grow Rich when I was really young. I mean, every job that you went to told you, especially if you were doing a sales job, and here I'm in California, and a lot of times, and in New York, it was the same thing. You just did whatever to get a job, and most times it was sales stuff and on the phone or doing something like that. And so what would happen is that every company I went to said, you've got to read Think and Grow Rich, and I did that over years and years and years. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm not getting something here. I needed what you're doing. I needed the list. I needed things to be written down. But then over the years, I kept using it. And the amazing thing that happened, I would talk about it to all of my people and people I worked with, people that worked for me, worked with me, whatever. And I'm still thinking something is not connecting with me. And I thought, what's going on here? So years later, I discovered another Napoleon Hill book called Outwitting the Devil. And
That's a good one. That's a good one.
that one blew me away. It was, and that's what is taught, and that's about empowerment. That really is it. And so what I got to see is that I'm listening to Napoleon Hill, I'm reading his book, I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, and I'm thinking, how come I'm not doing everything? How come I haven't manifested everything that I think I'm doing here? And the part was I was just judging myself because I had doubt. And so when I read Outwitting the Devil and could hear from the man, the mentor, that he had doubt. He wasn't sure about a lot of the stuff that he was even doing. But that's what
Definitely.
comes up. But you've got to decide, do you let that stop you or do you keep going? That was the whole thing. And so it came full circle for me. And and then it was fascinating to hear, because that book, I don't know if you know the history of that, but that particular book was never published for decades because it was
Correct.
too embarrassing. People thought this is going to be weird. People are going to think there's something strange about him, and
Right.
I've gone through that. I started out as a vocal coach. And so now people know me as that. I've got, thousands of subscribers on my YouTube and all of that. And so when I said, okay, but now I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about your life. I'm going to talk about empowerment coaching, which becomes a very different thing, but it's actually all the same thing. Whenever you're working on yourself, it's about development, so it doesn't matter what area it's in. So that's been my.
So, Coach, where are you located in California?
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're in Long Beach?
No, in Los Angeles. Sorry, in Hollywood. In Hollywood.
Really? So you're down the block from us. We're in Woodland Hills.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just there on Thanksgiving. That's where I had
Yeah,
my
we're down the
Thanksgiving
block
dinner.
from you. Such a small world. So let me ask you a question,
Hmm.
Coach. What would you say the top three things that you would recommend to people to learn from Think and Grow Rich, or what are the top three most important part of this book that you could give us a little tips on how you implement it or why individuals should implement it?
Well, the first thing is just in the title. If you understand the title, Think and Grow Rich, meaning that you've got to pay attention to how you're thinking, because your thoughts are powerful and they're creating something. And most times we're not doing that. And we don't do it because we don't believe in ourselves or believe we have the power to change or really create anything. So we're just arbitrarily not paying attention to our thoughts. And so in the book, that's what that's what he tells us so much. Look at how you've been talking to yourself. Look at how you stop yourself whenever you come up against an obstacle, So the other important thing is to understand that if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to develop, achieve something, you're going to fall down. And the biggest difference is, do you look at your falling down or your failure or your mistake as an opportunity to learn something, or do you just let it stop you, you know, from whatever? Oops, my camera flipped. Sorry. You just
Yeah,
let it.
right.
You just let it stop you. That's the biggest difference. That's the only thing that separates, you know, really successful people from everybody else who's just getting by. You know, the successful people say, okay, I get it. And it took me a long time. I had to read, and this is a lot in Think and Grow Rich, where he talks about the different failures. Every single person that he, you know, went and talked to, they didn't get there right away. They had some failures, but for some reason, we get really hard on ourselves when we have our own, and then we stop. And that's probably, and then the other thing is to have a plan. That was the other thing that he kept talking about so much, is to like create some sort of plan, however you're going to go about it. You know, sometimes it's just writing it down, but just thinking. Most people, and this is the interesting thing, and I have a little process that I use, and I say I try to do it every day. Who am I? Because then when you ask that question, you kind of see, are you doing the things that you say you're about, where you're going or what you want to do, or what are you creating that life? And we sometimes don't pay attention to that. So it's always about paying attention. What are we doing now? And is it leading us to where we want to go?
That's awesome. That was a book by itself, Coach. I kind of missed my notebook. I should have had my notebook out. That's my fault on my side. I should have had my notebook out.
I'm in the process. I'm writing a book. I'm finishing a book. Actually, I'm trying to get it done. The last parts of it today. And this one is called, the name of the book is called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom. Because when we look at it, that's the only thing that's getting in our way.
That is very true, and it's just that it's just up here. That's it. It's no, I mean, I deal with. I tell you a story. I tell you what I did. My wife, when we initially started going out, like 6-7 years ago, or she's gonna watch this video and chop me why I don't have the exact date when we started dating and everything else. But she's afraid of dark. Mm-hmm. So in my townhouse condo, it's a 2-story high. So whenever I go from downstairs, I go upstairs to the bedrooms, I always turn off all the lights. So she's in a little dark, but she knows I'm still there. So right. I've been doing this thing with her. Now she's kind of getting the rhythm. So she's not as afraid as she was from darkness, because she's just like, okay, so it's dark, no big deal. She reaches for her phone, turns on her camera. You know, she says a couple of things to me that I can't say on this video right now. But, you know, she calls me out on it. But, you know, I've been doing it because I'm not afraid of dark. I have other fears, but I figured if I keep pushing her to just like overcome that, I think she's getting much better at it. Because I have a brand new newborn, and I'm thinking, what if at one night power goes out, and we have to go from downstairs we got to go from upstairs to downstairs, and there's no lights. Right. By the time she gets to some type of a candle or flashlight or emergency light, as long as she doesn't have that fear that she can at least get downstairs, I did my job. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about fear, and you got to think, my wife is an attorney. She's in a legal field. She has her way with words, and when she wants to be mean and she wants to be on top of her game, like, oh my God, help you. Nothing is gonna stop her. But then she's afraid of dark. You would not think that an attorney with this kind of a status would be afraid of like just lights not being on. Right. So it definitely could cripple some of the best ones that you think, oh, they're like the Superwoman or Superman, or they got like invisible powers. Like, oh my God, you look up to these people, and then they got this little fear going on. I'm like we gotta change that. So I'm doing my own experiment on my own wife. How's that?
You used one of the processes that I have called take baby steps. When you have some fears that have been really, getting you for a long time, figure out little things you can do to help yourself move through them. And that's just what you did with your wife. You did it a step.
The way I realized it is, with fear, you just got to walk through it.
Right.
But some people, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. That's what it is. So I don't know what my little daughter, what she's going to be afraid of, but we'll figure that out. So I'm experimenting on my wife. Let's start with that, and then we'll we'll make sure that the next generation is not afraid of that. But you know, that's how it is. So let me ask you a question. Do you do any personal coaching? Is
Yeah.
that one of the things that
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah.
Who
I do
would
all of
be
my
a good candidate for you?
anyone who's having difficulty figuring out what they want to do in their life, first of all, or figuring out that do they have a purpose? Do they have a direction? What is it? Everyone has something. The problem, the first thing that I find when I talk to someone is that they have no clue as to what that is. Now, that goes on for a lot of reasons. They, one, talk themselves out of believing that they could do whatever it is that they thought they wanted to do, and they've started to develop a lot of limitations and all of that. And so, and then when we do that, we also start to create obstacles and we don't even know we're doing it. We create things that look like we can't get through them. And we're doing that because we're afraid of moving forward into where we want to go. And so one of the first things I do is get people to, like, ask them a question. Forget about everything else. What is it that you would see yourself being or doing, in a year? What would that be? And so then when they start to think about that and let down, I said, regardless, forget about anything that's going on now. It doesn't have anything to do with how much money you have, where you live, or anything, any education, nothing. Just what is that? And it's interesting to see how much trouble people have coming up with that answer because we've blocked it from ourselves for so long. So that's the first thing. Then we all have stuff in our way. We all have difficult situations that we're living in. Maybe it's our spouse, maybe it's or a job or something, whatever it is. But I will tell you that there's always a way to figure out how to move through or get over that. And so that's the thing that I will help people figure out. When you're in the mess, your own mess, it's hard for you to see the alternatives. It's hard for you to find options, but I'm able to objectively, because I'm not in it, I can look at your stuff and see it a lot more objectively and give you some solution. Then the other part of that, and this is the thing that most people have trouble with, is staying accountable. I do it. I have trouble. I have to figure out ways. If I say I'm going to do something, let me go and do it. Now, there may be a lot of different reasons that I'm not doing it. Maybe it's a little bit of fear, or maybe it's using distractions, or I haven't put my life in order in the correct way, whatever it is. But if I have a system in place of being accountable for what I'm doing, where I'm going, I'm going to have a much better success in getting there.
I totally agree with that. But I mentioned in one of my other lives, Dr. King is one of my favorite public speakers and motivational speakers, or a role model, even though some of his plans were not good, but most of his plans were good and he implemented. But he has the old saying that I love going back and forth, and it reminds me of myself. I kind of do have a reminder. Let me tell you what he said. You probably heard of it, is that men in our country, they die by age of 19, 20. Or we just don't get to bury them till they're 60, 70, 80.
Yeah.
Because when we're young, there is no limitations.
Right.
If you want to conquer the world, I want to become an astronaut, I want to become a pilot, I want to go to Air Force, I want to become a scientist, I want to become a doctor. I mean, you got these wild, crazy dreams and goals. But then you get to high school and all these limitations start building. You go to university, it starts building. You get into the real life, and then now you're seriously getting punches. Now all those goals, all those dreams, or you get married, you have children, now you got a responsibility of a family. Then seriously, a lot of people, they just settle for so little, and it just builds up. So we don't get to bury you till you're 60 or 70, but you're literally, in your mind, you already quit. That means you already did. So that's what I keep telling these younger generation, that you might get punches in the face, but you got to get up and work your face off. That's the only way to success. Nobody becomes successful overnight. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit younger than you, Coach. You look like you're like what? You're in like your 30s. I'm in my 20s. Based on your experience. Based on your experience, how long does it take for you to be successful? Is it an overnight thing, or can it be an overnight thing?
Yes. Yes, the answer is that. It can be an overnight thing, and it can still take a really long time. Let me explain that. I think that sometimes, and everybody's life is going to be a little bit different. My life, I did a whole bunch of different stuff. I've done so many different careers till I got to here. And so, and then in the last several years, which doesn't make any sense, I thought, oh, well, wait a minute, this is really where I'm supposed to be in my life. So was that, there was one friend I have, he said to me many years ago, he says, you're a late bloomer. I go, maybe that's true. And then I heard Jane Fonda talk about that the other day. She goes, listen, we're all living longer now. So late bloomers are really good things because you come in with a little more experience and wisdom. So that's it. Other people I've seen have this belief, and right from, you know, very early on, that they're going to do certain things. That's their path, and they might go for it. But there's value in every single path. And I'm saying, and this is what I have to get my clients to understand. Just because your path, and this is where we all get thrown off, just because your path doesn't look exactly like somebody else's, doesn't mean it's wrong. Everybody's path is there. Most people don't figure out why they've had their life experiences, because they have meaning. There's something they're supposed to do with them, otherwise they wouldn't have had them. And so once they start figuring that out, then it becomes they start to find more meaning in their lives, basically.
I agree with that. There are no accidents in life.
Right. Right.
Everything happens for a reason. Now, sometimes we don't know what the reason is at the moment, but
exactly.
You will find out what the reason is. Coach, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure of having you on our channel. I definitely want to connect with you. We're going to do this more often, and I'm going to kind of use and abuse as much as your knowledge as I can for free for our audiences. I'm at least being upfront with it. We're going to use and abuse you as much as we can to bring in as much as of your wisdom, because I believe that's invaluable. No amount of money will be able to compensate you for all the life experience you have and dealing with so many clients, and especially that you're close by. We're gonna connect. I'm gonna DM you my number, so you and I need to be in contact. We are creating a mastermind group, and we would definitely love to have your opinion on it, and you could take a look and put your 2 cents into it, and hopefully we could make it even better.
Definitely. Great. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Okay. All right. You too.